if you meet a man who is successful, who claims that he is self-made, A, he is a liar. B, he is unaware. No man did it without the guidance or the help of another man. Point blank and period. And throughout this video, I'm going to prove my point. Simple as that. Every man needs a man. Pause. Let's get into it. My name is Chris James. I'm the host of this conversation, Man on Purpose. This is the second conversation that I'll be hosting with y'all. For those who didn't watch the first one, who am I? Again, I am a certified anger management specialist. I am a mental health first aid instructor with the National Council of Mental Well-Being. I also serve as the director of a statewide program right here in Georgia called Black Boys Better, where we provide mental health education and services for Black boys. I also serve as a wellness counselor for Black men. I love you, Black men, the shirt says. Believe that, know that to be true. So I'm also the man who's going to be looking at these notes on this computer here to make sure I stay on track and to make sure that what I share with y'all is purpose-filled. All right? There's a mantra that I like to say every time I have this conversation. I'll say it. You can repeat it after me. I am a man on purpose. I am a man in purpose. I am purpose. I want every man who watches this, every boy who watches this, to receive that. I want you to live by that. I want you to be that. Because if you are not a man on purpose, you are what? A man on accident. And we don't want you just frolicking throughout your life aimlessly. We need you to be on purpose. All right? Operating with intention and intentionality. So let's get into this conversation. Every man needs a man. So I remember when I was about 22 years old, I had my first big boy job, right? Where I was able to have a nice place and I was able to really just take care of myself. I was doing my thing. I was proud of myself, man. It was a good life. And then I remember, because I was a baby daddy at that point, I was no longer with the mothers of my children. I got put on child support. And I got the letter from child support saying they were going to start taking child support out of my check. But I didn't really know what that meant. Again, I'm 22. I'm young. I ain't really never talked to nobody about this process or what it looked like. And then one day I get my check and it's half of what it usually was. Y'all, I cried man tears. I was hurt. Everybody can relate to that? Put it in the comments if you can relate to that. It was painful, y'all. But I recall that days later, I had a conversation with my uncle. And I told him all about the situation. I was stressed. Child support taking money out of my check. I don't know what to do. I can't live off this money. He told me about another family member in our family who had dealt with a very similar situation, was making good money at first, and then child support started taking all his money. So my Uncle Melvin suggested, he said, maybe you should do like your cousin and become an entrepreneur. Because if you're an entrepreneur, you own your business, child support can't take money out of your checks that you're creating for your own self, right? He said that, but also, there's not going to be a cap on the money that you make if you are your own boss. And I took that advice and I ran with it because I believed it, because he had experienced it. He knew somebody who experienced it as a man. And y'all, a month later, I was a full-time artist, right? I was a full-time, again, back then I was a full-time writer and spoken word artist. But a month later, I had my plan together. I said, if I'm going to be a full-time writer, I got to publish a book. I got to have some product to sell. And a month later, y'all, I was in DC on tour, like performing poetry, selling books, and I had made more money than I had ever made working for somebody else, right? But that little bit of guidance from another man who had experienced something similar to what I had experienced, or knew somebody who experienced what I was going through, it helped me to reach my potential, right? And what I've discovered in my journey is that it's important to have men around other men, right? Because we see each other differently than women can see us, right? We understand each other differently and deeper than women or our mothers or our aunties, our grandmothers have the ability to understand us. And it's not a bad thing. So I say all the time, man, we need other men around us who can provide us guidance, who can provide us mentorship. And that's what this conversation is going to be about. Again, every man needs a man. You know, there's so much research out here. Some research says that 40% of households are without fathers. Some research says that 64% of homes are without fathers. But reality is, let's forget those numbers, right? Reality is, most of us who are listening to this conversation right now can probably name 10, 20, 30 people that we know who didn't grow up in a house with their father, right? Right now, you can name at least 10 to 20, 30 people who grew up in a house and their father wasn't in the house with them, right? There's a problem there. Because that means that boy who became a man received majority of his everyday teaching and training from a woman. A woman. Again, I love women. I'm married to a beautiful black woman. I was raised by an amazing black woman. But I'm also realistic to know that my mother didn't have the capacity to teach me the things that I needed to know to be a man of value, a quality man, a strong man, a man with bravado. A woman couldn't give me that. Shout out to Mario Reyes. He's the creator of the podcast I So Bloom. But he's right here in Atlanta. But he wrote a book titled, and it's a bar, y'all. Listen to this. The book is titled, "A Son with No Father is like a book with no author." Right? I mean, think about that. A son with no father is like a book with no author. Right? How many of us black boys, black men, were once black boys walking around in life, writing our own stories, like making mistakes as we attempted to become men, and we just kept getting it wrong, kept trying to figure it out? How many of us as men right now are still trying to figure out what it looks like to be a man, to be a husband, to be a father, to be a son, a brother? How many of us are still struggling in these roles because we too were sons without fathers, books without authors? How many of you are the fathers of sons right now, and you are not fully contributing to the writing of their story, or the molding of their boyhood into manhood? See, there are so many men who are struggling to maintain healthy relationships because they don't have other men around them holding them accountable, right? Like I meet so many like men who are 35 plus, who are single, who don't have the capacity to maintain a healthy, happy relationship, who often say things like, "Man, I'm cool with being single," right? And when I hear that, what I hear from them is, it's easier not to do the work required to be in a happy, healthy relationship, so I'll just chill by myself. And then they find themselves 45, 50 with bad knees, hurting in pain, having to do it all alone. Y'all do know that it's a loneliness epidemic going on right now, right? Y'all do know that there's a friendship recession going on right now, right? Y'all do know that black men are lonely at such a high rate that is increasing the rate in which we are dying by suicide, right? Again, because we're lonely and we think that we can do it alone. Not true. Again, men are struggling because they don't have other men holding them accountable, right? Like if my homeboy called me and say he's struggling in his marriage and he needs to come stay on my couch, the answer is no. Go talk to your wife. Go to counseling. Let's work on your marriage, right? But we got boys allowing other boys to frolic in their relationships, to not operate in intentionality and in purpose in their marriages, and now they're getting divorced and relationships are ending and their houses are unhealthy. They're not in the home with the children. It's just all bad out here because men are attempting to do it alone. Men naturally challenge other men. That's just what it is. Like think about when you were in PE, right, back in the day, right? And you saw, Jeremy doing push-ups. You'd be like, oh, I'm about to do them too, right? I mean, even now, like when I go to the gym with my homeboys, right? Like if I go by myself, I do my workout, right? But if I go with my homeboys, they gonna be like, oh man, you can push, you can do 5 more, bro. You can lift 10 more pounds, right? And I believe it. I'm like, let's go then. Like right now, I can do 50 push-ups nonstop. But when I do my events, like I've done an event like December 2023, and I remember having a push-up competition with all the men in the room. It's like 40 of us in the room. And I remember that day, I did 80 push-ups nonstop. Why? Because other men were challenging me, right? Other men being around made me want to be more competitive, right? Because it's the mindset that it's just what it is, man. Like, and the men who are watching this, you know what I mean, right? When you are around other men, you are encouraged to go harder, right? That bravado wakes up in you. Men learn confidence in their masculinity from other men, right? Again, I love women, but your mother, your wife, your girlfriend, your sister, your homegirl cannot teach you as a man to be confident in your masculinity. It's not possible. So, moving on. Like I do in every video, I can't just talk about the problem without offering the solution. So here's the solution. Men, if you desire to be great, if you desire to be the best version of yourself, what I give to you is this. Understand that we are all copycats. Most of us are accidental copycats, right? Man on accident. I want you to be a man on purpose. So what I mean by that is you've become a copy of all of your environment. You've become a copy of the women around you, some of the men around you. But now I want you to find men who are in your vicinity or men who are not. I want you to find men that are on YouTube, men that are at your church, men that are at your job who are of quality, who possess the fruit in their lives that you want in your life, right? Whether it's a happy, healthy relationship, good money, good relationships with their children, great spiritual health, great physical health, right? I want you to look at the behaviors and the habits of these men and learn from them. And then here's a step further. I want you to find a man who is better than you, and don't act like there's not a man who's better than you. It is. I want you to find a man who is better than you and beg to be his student, to be his apprentice, to learn from him. Dr. Miles Monroe said that most men don't read because they think they know it all. Like, when was the last time you picked up a book and read it from beginning to end? right? When was the last time you sat down and watched a documentary from beginning to end? When was the last time you listened to an intellectual podcast from beginning to end? When was the last time you read books from the Bible, right? Because all the principles are there for sure on how we can be the best versions of ourselves as men. Are you a man who thinks you know it all? As a man, you should be active pursuers of knowledge and growth. So again, find a man who is better than you and beg to be his student. And hear me out on this. Don't just seek men who make a lot of money, right? That's not always the greatest measurement of quality men, right? Look at men again who have healthy relationships with money. Look at men who have healthy relationships with food and relationship and women. Look at men who have healthy relationships with God, right? Like, don't just look for rich people, right? Because there are men who are around you who you can learn from, who have quality attributes that you might not possess at this moment in your life. Trust those men to be your guidance, right? And the man that may contribute to your growth may be a man that you make more money than, right? You may be buffer than him or, right? Whatever, right? Again, look for men who have attributes that you too desire to possess. There's nothing weak about that. There's nothing gay about that. And I want to close with this. I told you earlier that my goal is I want to prove to you that every man needs a man. If LeBron James needed a Dwayne Wade, what make you think you don't need another man in your life? If let me take it all the way back. Let's talk about one of the greatest men that you know. If Moses needed another man, what make you think you don't? Right? Like we always hear about Moses, but if you read your Bible, we also learn that Moses, he wasn't even confident with his assignment at first. He told God, "Man, I don't know if I can do this. I don't speak as well. But my brother Aaron does." Moses had Aaron with him the entire time on his assignment. If Moses, LeBron James, Michael Jordan, Barack Obama, if all these men of greatness needed other men, right? Again, if Deion Sanders, arguably the greatest football player in history, if he needed a coach, what make you think you don't need a coach? What make you think you don't need a mentor or a man that you can learn and grow from? Don't be foolish. Don't think that you can be a man of greatness on an island. It's not possible. Nor should you want that. That's a lonely life to live. So, men, you chase girls and women all your life. Now it's time to go chase a man. Pause. That was a joke. Don't be chasing no men now, unless that's okay. You know what? Never mind. The point is, pursue great men, man. Like, you need to have a primary care physician as a man. Your therapist needs to be a man, right? You need get around more men. All right, iron sharpens iron. Do the work. All right, and like I always say, I love you, but be a man on purpose. Peace.